Hi, my name is Chelsea Trungrove, and I'm a program manager at Empatica. We're an MIT spinoff that focuses on creating new digital endpoints and objective biomarkers that can be used in clinical trials and to really help monitor patient health remotely. And we do all of this through small wearable devices that people can wear on their wrist. For the past year and a half, we've been working with HHS, so the US government's Health and Human Services, on an early detection algorithm to initially look at early warning signs of influenza and other respiratory infections. So this work actually started back in 2018. We really had no idea the impact that this early work would be having in today's COVID era. It was really surprising for us when in the beginning of this year, everything happened with the COVID pandemic, and we had all of this early data looking at early respiratory signals from a wearable device. And so what we've been doing over the past months is using the data that we've collected from monitoring healthy individuals, also collecting data from challenge studies where patients were actually inoculated with other less dangerous respiratory infective diseases, where we were able to monitor both the physiological signals, symptoms reporting, but also see comparisons to PCR or really infectiveness in an individual. And through that, we've been able to build out what we're calling the Aura algorithm, which can actually monitor and give you a risk warning of whether or not you might have a risk of having COVID. So this is actually able to give you an early signal either 1 or 2 days before you might even show symptoms. And right now, we've expanded out this partnership that we have with HHS, and we're running a clinical validation study for an FDA submission. So our focus is really on the regulatory rigor to be able to say that this algorithm can perform at a level that will be able to be used in the general population to give this early risk warning. So we're just really thrilled to have been able to work on this for the past year. This work is really important because right now there's obviously no vaccine, there's really no cures for COVID, and this can give people an early warning to maybe if they think that they might have COVID, they can know to go get tested, they can quarantine themselves. So really trying to reduce the risk of spreading this to other people in the population and maybe even getting care early so that you can take care of yourself ahead of time. And also through this platform, we've just really been thrilled to see what this remote monitoring technology, where through these wearable devices that are all medical grade and our devices are FDA cleared and CE marked, you're able to monitor patient vitals in a remote setting. So keeping patients out of the hospital, really only getting them there when it's absolutely necessary. This work has been used now in clinical trials. It's being used by healthcare systems, and hopefully with this new validation study with HHS, we'll be able to get it through an FDA, EUA, and maybe a de novo in the future. So we're pretty excited about this work. I think it's really trailblazing. So much of what we've seen in healthcare and even digital tech has really been focused on sort of this pinpoint diagnostics, where you're going into a hospital and you're taking your temperature in these sort of single snapshots of your day. And what we've seen in the literature and in a lot of the studies that we've run is that's not really an accurate measurement of your health. So through our technologies, you're actually getting this remote continuous monitoring of physiological signals. We're capturing breathing rate, heart rate, electrodermal activity, which is an output of the sympathetic nervous system, motion, sleep. There's all of these different features that we've actually validated against gold standards. So for something like sleep, comparing it to polysomnography. And what we've seen is by really having these continuous measures, you're able to get a real picture of what an individual is experiencing in their real life, not in a lab, not in a hospital setting. And especially now with able to implement these COVID analytics, we're really able to give a real medical grade risk analysis around whether or not you might have an infection early.
At Eko, we build technologies to help us better understand our heart and lung health. We build what you can imagine as basically a Shazam for heartbeats. So we build software, devices, and algorithms that help us automatically analyze heart sounds like we'd hear with a stethoscope, better detect cardiovascular diseases and pulmonary diseases, and be able to monitor them outside of the clinical setting or with patients at home. So we've built actually a number of FDA cleared technologies, both FDA cleared devices that we can use to help track our own heart function, and then those AI deep learning algorithms that can provide intelligence to physicians to help them better care for those patients. Our products are used by physicians globally, actually, tens of thousands of physicians representing several thousand health systems and clinic and practices. And we're honored to be part of this event tonight. So the Eko story starts back in grad school for me, actually. I got the chance to talk to some physicians about how they used common medical technologies. And every physician always wears a stethoscope, of course, because that's, the icon of medicine. And was talking to these physicians about how they use the stethoscope in their practice, how they, take the chest piece and listen to the patient's heart sounds or lung sounds or breath sounds. And we kind of discovered that many physicians didn't feel confident using the stethoscope to diagnose patients with heart or lung conditions. And that was because it can be very hard to hear those differences between healthy hearts and diseased hearts, or healthy lungs and diseased lungs. The nuances can be extremely subtle, and it takes a tremendous amount of practice and training to be able to confidently hear those differences. And we were thinking about this from a computer science perspective, in that deep learning algorithms and AI algorithms are really good at doing audio pattern matching and helping us identify those differences. I mean, Siri works really well even when you're driving in your car or you have a lot of background noise. Siri is still able to pick up the words that you're saying with a lot of accuracy. And so we set out with the goal to be able to automate that process for physicians to help them more confidently use the stethoscope on the front lines of care to help better detect heart and lung disease in their patients. Unique in the approach that we're taking, in that we're building the devices that, the digital stethoscope hardware, the software, the mobile software that allows us to capture the data from that device, and then the algorithms, and building that all into a very seamless workflow for the physicians and for the patients. And so, in that respect, we are definitely quite unique. We're kind of tackling the whole range of the system to be able to help support physicians and patients in their cardiac and pulmonary health. I think cardiovascular diseases and pulmonary diseases are this massive scourge globally. They kill twice as many people as cancers. They are tremendously expensive from a human life and just a economic perspective to treat. And we just as a global population, we don't manage these diseases very effectively. And for many patients, early detection is key. The earlier we can detect the disease, the better we can manage it, the more effectively we can treat that patient to prevent the disease from progressing to become worse. And so, I think we're so excited to see the ways that healthcare is changing as more healthcare moves virtual, as telehealth becomes more important. And we are very optimistic about the impact that better monitoring can have on patients with cardiac and pulmonary diseases. And we want to, bend the mortality curve for cardiovascular disease so that these aren't the number one killers globally, and that we are better able to keep these patients healthy and let them live happy, fulfilling lives that are, unaffected by this terrible disease. So, I think it's a problem that we can all relate to very personally. I think it's hard to find any person that doesn't have a family member or a friend or a loved one who hasn't been impacted by cardiovascular disease, because they're just so incredibly common. And we're really excited to be helping build technologies to improve the quality of care.
Thanks for having me. My name is Ben Huang. I'm the CEO of a company called Profusa. And at Profusa, what we aim to do is to develop a biotechnology sensing platform that enables any individual to get a key biochemistry clinical grade, where physicians can make therapeutic choices, but get that data in real time, anytime, anywhere out of an individual's body. We've done that through technological innovations and really solved one of the most important and critical barriers for that vision to come true, which is how do you overcome the body's tendency to reject things that don't belong inside the body. So our sensor platform has overcome that barrier, that technical barrier that's been plaguing the industry for the last 50 years or so, and really created a platform that is creates clinical data that's validated, where physicians could use that data to make a choice, but that data comes out of you and comes out of a user as easily as wearing a Band-Aid or a watch, and at a cost point where if you're underinsured or if you actually don't have the means to pay for technologies like this, you could still have access to the technology. The cost is actually so much lower. And we believe that being able to do this, having real-time biochemistry information where physicians can make therapeutic decisions on, and you could have that happen anytime and anywhere, really changes the way medicine and healthcare and an individual's well-being to be practiced in the future. It really allows an individual and empowers that individual to make healthcare decisions and well-being decisions and in real time, and we think that's transformative in its nature. Digital trailblazers, in my mind, is pulling together the technological advancements over the last 50, 60 years in our digital world, and how do we actually take those digital applications and digital technologies, if you will, and solve some of the most important problems that are facing us. For the healthcare industry and for the industry that we're in, it's absolutely critical, because as we've all benefited over the last 20 years or so with digital innovations, where technology with our cell phones, platforms such as Amazon, applications such as Waze and Google Maps have really transformed how we live our lives with real-time information and real-time data. The one place that digital technology, one could argue, that really has not made a huge impact really is in healthcare. We talk about digital health a lot, we talk about digital medicine and telemedicine a lot, and there have been a lot of effort in this area to try to bring the technology and the digital solutions into, one would argue, probably some of the most important problems that we want to solve. And that just hasn't happened. And the reason it hasn't happened, I believe, is because the technology really hasn't caught up or has been applied in a way that's unique to healthcare that really could solve that problem. And that problem is this. In healthcare, you need to create digital solutions that enables very high value clinical decisions to be made. So physicians could actually be comfortable in making therapeutic and clinical diagnostics. And for an individual to benefit from that technology, that digital solution needs to be very easily applied, and the information that you get is important and trusted, so that when you talk to your doctor or when you get insight from that data coming out of your body, you could trust that insight to be clinically relevant, to be accurate, and could actually inform some of the healthcare decisions that you need to make. And that hole and that gap, if it doesn't exist, if you cannot create digital solutions that create that body of evidence that's clinically validated and clinically important, I think healthcare will not benefit from the digital revolution that we've enjoyed in other aspects of our lives. On the other hand, if you can make that bridge and allow that data to be present at any given moment in real time and to be accurate so you can make the right choice, then I think the world changes in the way that when you shop on Amazon, you trust that the pricing is right, you trust that the product description is right, and then therefore you could transact with confidence anytime, anywhere, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. In healthcare, if you could trust that data and the physicians could trust that data, then you could actually have that health discussion anytime, anywhere, any day of the week, and no matter where you are. And it changes not just the healthcare delivery paradigm, but also the economics of healthcare in a very fundamental way. And so it's why I think digital technology trailblazers in this category is so important, because it is the underlying linchpin for our world to actually get to be a much better place and for healthcare to actually catch up to other parts of our lives in terms of benefiting from digital technology.
Super excited to be nominated among a number of fantastic companies. Looking back at past award winners, we see some of the real leaders in a variety of industries, and so we're thankful and excited to be considered. What we built at Recursion is the next generation of biotech company, and it's a biotech company that's digitally native and digitally powered. We've set our mission on something incredibly important, which is to improve the health of people all around the world by finding new medicines that can make a difference in their lives. And I think everybody's aware of how expensive medicines are today, and through the use of technology, and at Recursion in particular, we have really taken a deep dive into automation. So we do millions of experiments every month using robots instead of using people to explore biology. And then we use a variety of techniques and machine learning, principally among them, to try and extract information in an unbiased way out of all the data we generate. And we're kind of sitting at an interesting crossroads. We're a company that's generating more data every second than Twitter. So we're moving more data to the cloud than Twitter at any given moment, and trying to make use of all that data in a really, really compelling way. But in this industry that's heavily regulated, relatively conservative, and on top of biology, which is just one of the most complex, challenging problems that you can face. And I think that's what makes our team excited to work on something that could be this impactful, to work at the intersection of biology and technology, and to work on a problem this hard. And I think for all those reasons, we're finding ourselves a nominee. So we have a team who have spent years building kind of the back office of our laboratories, where we measure everything. We measure the time that every step of every experiment takes. We measure the exact number of cells that are in every experiment. We measure every type of manufacturing lot of every reagent we use in our process. And then we have an entire team on the back end, on the software side as well, who've built quality checking software that automatically moves all of our data to the cloud, and that validates that we moved the right data. And so all in all, I mean, it's a team of about 175, 180 folks at Recursion today, and about 50 of those folks are software engineers and data scientists. So it's a pretty substantial effort to both acquire that quantity of data, move it to the cloud with fidelity and with speed, and then to automatically analyze that quantity of data, millions of images that we generate every week from biology, and then to feed those back to our biologists and to create this iterative loop of data generation, software, and data analysis, feeding into the biologists so that we can make an iterative decision and get better and better week over week, and do more and more experiments that will lead us towards treatments for patients that don't have them. Yeah, AI, machine learning is absolutely the future of drug discovery. It is a massive, massive challenge. There are more potential drugs, more potential chemicals that could be a drug than there are, atoms on Earth. It's pretty incredible when you think about the scale. And at the same time, every one of us is made up of 1 trillion different cells. In every one of those cells, there's 400,000 proteins encoded by 21,000 genes. It's just a massively complex problem, and it's actually the perfect problem for some of the best elements of AI and machine learning. The differentiator for companies in this space will be the data sets that we use and feed into ML and AI, because the traditional sayings, right? You put garbage in, you get garbage out. And ultimately, I think the companies that will be most successful, and certainly Recursion is the leader in the digital biology space, and I think will continue to be, are companies who are building at the real intersection, right? It's not just the algorithm, right? And over time, that may even become a commodity. It's the algorithm with the right data set. And on a topic as challenging and as complex as biology, it's a high quality data set, and it's also an incredibly large data set that's needed. And this is why you see companies like even Novartis saying that they're now a data science company, as much as they're saying that they're a biopharma company. You start to see the whole landscape shifting. But ultimately, there's this small nexus of companies who have built from the ground up foundationally as digitally native.